James Cameron's Avatar and its sequel, Avatar: The Way of Water, both explore the lush, otherworldly planet of Pandora, offering audiences groundbreaking visuals and spectacular action. However, despite the technological advancements and expanded narrative scope in Avatar 2, the two films essentially share the same core plot, thematic elements, and even many of the same characters. Upon closer examination, it becomes clear that these films are not so much sequels as they are reboots, with a few surface-level adjustments. At the heart of both films is the same central conflict: the struggle between the indigenous Na'vi and the human invaders seeking to exploit Pandora's natural resources. In the first Avatar, Jake Sully, a paraplegic Marine, is recruited into the Avatar program to interact with the Na'vi using a genetically engineered body. Over time, Jake becomes sympathetic to the Na'vi cause and decides to defend their land against human colonization. The main antagonist, Colonel Quaritch, represents the military-industrial complex, prioritizing resource extraction over the preservation of Pandora's ecosystem. Fast forward to Avatar: The Way of Water, and we see Jake Sully once again at the forefront of the conflict, now leading a family on the run from human forces. The film shifts its focus to the oceans of Pandora, but the narrative structure is nearly identical to the first. Jake is still forced to choose between his loyalty to humanity and his responsibility to the Na'vi. Colonel Quaritch returns in a new avatar, literally and figuratively, as the villain, once again driving the human effort to colonize Pandora. His motivations remain strikingly similar to the first film. He is driven by a desire to destroy the Na'vi and assert human dominance over the planet. While Quaritch's return is framed as a dramatic twist, it ultimately serves as a recycled version of the same antagonistic force. The themes explored in both films also exhibit a significant degree of overlap. Both Avatar and Avatar 2 emphasize environmentalism, critiquing the destruction of natural ecosystems for profit and portraying the Na'vi as the guardians of Pandora's balance. The Na'vi's deep connection to nature and their spiritual bond with the land, or, in the case of the sequel, the ocean, stand in direct contrast to the greed-driven human characters who see the planet as a resource to be consumed. These environmental themes are explored in much the same way in both films. The Na'vi fight to preserve their home, while the humans fight to exploit it. The second film expands on the setting, focusing on underwater environments and aquatic life, but the central message remains unchanged. Humans are the aggressors, and nature must be protected at all costs. Structurally, the films follow a remarkably similar trajectory. Both narratives center around Jake Sully's journey of adaptation and allegiance, where he learns the ways of the Na'vi and becomes integrated into their culture, only to face a threat that forces him to take up arms in defense of Pandora. The basic plot structure, the outsider's assimilation into the Na'vi tribe, followed by a climactic battle against human forces, remains the same, despite the change in setting. The introduction of Jake's family in Avatar 2 adds new emotional stakes, particularly in terms of his role as a father, but the underlying conflict remains almost identical to that of the first film. Even the visual spectacles, the grand action sequences, the stunning landscapes, and the depiction of Pandora's wildlife mirror those of the original. In terms of character development, both films focus on Jake's transformation from a self-interested human to a devoted protector of Pandora. His internal struggle between his former human identity and his newfound loyalty to the Na'vi is a central theme in the first film, and this theme is revisited in the sequel, albeit with the added complexity of fatherhood. While there is an attempt to deepen Jake's character by exploring his familial relationships and the responsibility he feels toward his children, the emotional core of the story remains largely the same. Jake must defend Pandora against the same forces that threaten it in the first film. The characters, including Jake's wife Neytiri and the human antagonists, exhibit only slight evolution, as they are once again caught in familiar roles. The most striking similarity between the two films is the recycling of the villainous force. Colonel Quaritch, the principal antagonist in the first film, returns in Avatar 2 in a new form, a clone of his former self, now inhabiting an avatar body. While this resurrection offers some narrative novelty, Quaritch's motivations remain unchanged. He is an embodiment of human militarism and exploitation. His role as the primary antagonist in both films serves as a reminder that, despite the changes in setting and technology, the conflict remains fundamentally the same. It is as though the sequels lack a true evolution of the central adversary, relying instead on the same antagonist to drive the narrative forward. While Avatar 2 undoubtedly benefits from advanced visual effects, particularly its depiction of underwater environments, the overall plot and themes feel like a reiteration of the first film. The new setting, Pandora's Oceans, offers a fresh visual aesthetic, but the narrative and thematic content remain closely aligned with the original. This sense of repetition detracts from the film's potential to break new ground, both in terms of storytelling and character development. Avatar 1 and Avatar 2 can be seen as two sides of the same coin. While the sequel introduces some new characters, settings, and emotional dynamics, the core narrative remains remarkably similar. The same themes of environmentalism, colonialism, and the struggle for survival dominate both films, and the antagonists continue to embody the same destructive forces. Ultimately, the two films share a recycled storyline that, while visually stunning, offers little in terms of significant narrative innovation. Avatar 2 is, in many ways, an expansion of the first film rather than a true sequel, offering audiences a familiar, albeit visually enhanced experience.